The clock ticked faintly in the background as a gentle breeze slipped through the open window of the old family home. Ethan sat by his grandfather's bedside, holding his frail hand. The man who once towered over him with wisdom and strength now lay weakened, but his eyes still carried a timeless authority. "Grandpa, don't go yet," Ethan whispered, his voice trembling. His grandfather smiled softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "We all must go, my boy, but before I leave, there's something I must share with you. These are 5 truths I've lived by. Follow them, and you'll avoid the biggest mistakes in life." Ethan leaned in, desperate to capture every word. His grandfather's voice carried the weight of decades, each word deliberate and precious. "When I was your age," the old man began, "I wasted so much time chasing things that didn't matter. Money, approval, distractions. I thought I had all the time in the world. But time, my boy, is the one thing you can never get back. Spend it wisely. Spend it with people you love, and doing things that truly make your heart come alive." Ethan looked down, ashamed of the hours he had squandered, scrolling through his phone or chasing fleeting pleasures. His grandfather's words felt like a mirror, showing him the cracks he had ignored for too long. "Your word," his grandfather continued, his voice steady despite his weakening body, "is the only thing you truly own. A man's word is his bond. Never lie, never cheat, and never make promises you don't intend to keep. Trust is fragile, Ethan. Once broken, it's almost impossible to mend." Ethan remembered the look of disappointment in his best friend's eyes when he'd failed to show up for him. He swallowed hard, the weight of his grandfather's advice settling deep in his chest. "But don't be afraid to fail, my boy," his grandfather added after a moment. "Mistakes will happen. They're part of life. What you should fear is regret. The regret of not trying, of holding back, of letting fear stop you from living. I've made my share of mistakes, but what haunts me most are the things I was too afraid to do." Ethan hesitated, his voice barely audible. "Grandpa, how do I handle failure when it happens?" His grandfather's lips curled into a faint smile. "You learn from it. You let it shape you, not define you. Failure is a lesson, not a life sentence. Remember that." A tear slid down Ethan's cheek as his grandfather's hand trembled in his own. "Don't ever choose possessions over people, Ethan," the old man whispered, his eyes glistening with memories. "I learned that the hard way. I spent so many years trying to give your grandmother a life of luxury, but what she truly wanted was my time and attention. By the time I understood, it was too late. Don't make the same mistake. Love your family, cherish your friends, be there for them. No amount of money will ever replace the moments you lose with them." Ethan felt his heart tighten as he thought about the countless dinners he'd skipped with his parents, the calls he had ignored from his younger sister. His grandfather's breathing grew shallower, but his voice remained steady, filled with a final determination. "And Ethan, always stand for what's right, even if it's hard, even if it means you stand alone. There will be times when the world tests you, when doing the right thing feels like the most impossible choice. But your courage, your integrity, those are the things that define you. Stand tall, my boy. Stand proud." Ethan gripped his grandfather's hand tightly, the tears flowing freely now. "I promise, Grandpa, I promise I'll live by your words." The old man smiled, a look of peace washing over his face. His eyes closed gently, and his hand slipped from Ethan's grasp. The room grew still, but Ethan felt anything but empty. As he sat there in the quiet, his grandfather's words echoed in his mind. They weren't just advice, they were a roadmap, a guide to living a life without regrets. Ethan knew he wouldn't waste this gift. His grandfather had passed on more than wisdom, he had passed on a legacy. Life is too short to spend on trivialities, dishonesty, or fear. Build relationships. Hold on to your integrity. Stand for what's right. In the end, those are the things that truly matter. Ethan vowed to honor his grandfather not through grief, but by living the kind of life that would have made him proud.